What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Axe Creation. Today we're going to be looking at how to create a melodic riff based on some jazz harmony that moves through a chord progression, not just a static riff. So we're going to do this, we'll break down some chords and put some extensions on it. So let's go over the chords first. Let me get a clean channel going on. So the chords I'm using are essentially B minor, F major, B flat major, D minor, and then a C sharp diminished chord. Okay? So if I were to just play power chords through that, it's not the most exciting chord progression. Right? It's a little outside, there were some unrelated chords, and it sounds a little disjunct, right? It's not the best sounding chord progression, but we're going to work it a little bit and change it up. So when we talk about jazz harmony, the first thing we're going to do is essentially create seventh chords on all of those. So we're going to take our B minor, our F major, and we'll turn them into seventh chords. So we get B minor 7, F major 7, B flat major 7, D minor 7, and then C sharp minor 7 flat 5. And already when they play like that, you can put a little syncopated, jazzy kind of rhythm on it, and it's going to sound much more interesting already. Already, now that chord progression doesn't sound, disoriented or smooth. It actually works really nice. There's some nice, interesting voice leading going on there. So now let's build on that. I'm playing my 7-string. We're in standard tuning. If you're not playing a 7-string, this part of the lesson is going to be a little off on you because we're going to talk about some 7-string chord voicings, which is always fun. So we're going to take this B minor 7 chord. We're going to replace our B on our E string with our low open B. Really nice. And then we're going to bar the first 2 strings up top to create a minor 11 chord. So it's a B minor 11 chord. Okay? We have our 11th here, which is E, and then our 9 is up here. So we have our 7th, our 3rd, our 11th, and our 9th. B minor 11. Next chord is going to be F major 7, and we're going to turn it into an F major 7 sharp 11 chord. Don't be turned off by the chord names, big fancy chord names, if you don't necessarily know the intervals. That's okay. What's important is you know what it sounds like and that it sounds good. So this voicing, I'm going to grab the F here on my low B. It's actually extremely similar to that voicing if you were to play F major bar chord on the first position and then play your 2 high strings open. One of my favorite chords. That is an F major 7 sharp 11 chord. So here, grabbing the F here, we got 7 and 7 on our A and D string. My 7th and my 3rd. I'm going to grab the 5th on the G string, 5th fret, and then open, open. F major 7 sharp 11 chord. So our first chord is B minor 11, and then our second chord. Sounds great. Then we're going to move to the B flat chord. Essentially it's the same voicing as the B minor 11 chord, except instead of B in the bass it's going to be B flat. And that creates a B flat major 7 sharp 11. And then we play, instead of D minor 7, we're going to play D minor 9, one of my favorite little chords here. Right. 5 on the A, 3 on the D, 5, 5 on the G and B. And you can let the open E ring on top of that if you want. And then staying right there, leave your pinky down. You get your C minor 7 flat 5 chord. Nice little diminished chord, right? 4, 5, 4, 5. Now as the chord progression repeats, first chord is the same, second chord is the same. Now the third chord, instead of the B flat chord, we're actually going to play E flat here. It's still a major 7 sharp 11 chord, just a different root. Slightly different voicing. This time that sharp 11 is going to be up top. So it's 4 on the low string, 5 on our D string. There's our major third. We have our 5th and our 7th here, barred 3rd fret on our G and B string. And then the sharp 11's up top. And then to finish it off, we're going to move the D minor down, big full. Love that chord. Alright, 3, D, open A, 3, 2, 3, open E. So big D minor 9 chord. And here, just if I move that down, my ring finger and pinky down a fret, I get an A7 chord. Very simple open position chord, but since I have the 7th string, I'm going to grab the C sharp on the bass. Okay, so that's just an A7 with a C sharp. So we've taken some simple chords, turned them into 7th chords, and then we've changed them into some 7-string voicings with a few extra extensions on them to give them even more color. Cool. So now let's get to the heavy riff. How do we outline a riff doing this? Well, let's switch over and get a heavy sound going on. Cool. So the first thing we want to do, get a groove going, see how we feel. So everything is based off B, so I'm going to be bouncing it off that. So, personally, I like some syncopated riffs, so I'm going to go to that. Right? So I got that. Like that feel, I use it a lot. So to outline the B, if I just do, well, we'll talk about that a little bit, show the chords. So I'm just going to play open, alright, and I'm going to do 3-5, 3-5 on my low B and E. Now if I just to point out the shell of the B minor chord, next chord is F, so it's here. Now I love the interval of a major 7. It's a real beautiful type of dissonance. It's not really harsh dissonance. There's an exotic nature to it, and I use it all the time in my writing. So I'm always jumping up instead of maybe a 5th or an octave. I jump up a major 7. Alright? The 9th is there. So if I play 6 and then skip a string 7, there's my major 7. If I play that note, that's the 9 of the chord, so I'm just putting these extensions into the riff. I don't necessarily think about it that way when I write these riffs too. So don't get over analytical with this. I'm still playing what sounds good, it just happens to be a 9th, because 9ths sound really nice. That takes me down. Again, the tabs for this are in the description. Definitely download them, learn the riff. I don't want to spend too much time breaking down everything I'm doing. So I'm going to do the same motif because it's a B flat major 7. And here, instead of playing the 9 there, I'm just going to slide up to it, give it a different feel. Alright, there's my B flat, and those are all chord tones. Nothing going on there. I got root 7. Again, the 9, drop down to the octave. And there's my 5th. And that 5th, which is F, happens to be part of the D minor chord, so that helps me get to the D minor chord. And here I'm just going to do a little arpeggio type of run. Right? So I got starting on D, on my A string, my 5th fret on the A string. So I got 5, 8, same pattern up a step. So 7, 10. I grab there's my root, there's my 9. And then go to the C sharp chord. 4th fret on my A string, I just do a diminished arpeggio. Alright, everybody loves those. So that's the first half of the riff. Some of you might have noticed by picking up, by listening to the example, the last measure, we're in 4/4, but the last measure happens to be a measure of 7/8, so chop off an 8th note, get a little 8th note feel going on there. The second half of the riff is essentially identical. You know, just have the one chord change. Obviously my turnaround to get there is a little different, rhythm's a little different. A little chromatic line helps me get to that E chord. And it's the third chord, so instead of the B flat, it's the E flat, and it's literally the same idea, just off of that chord. And then the D minor chord and the C sharp chord are the same idea, just an octave lower. Whew. Alright? And that's another thing you can use for variation in your riffs. You can use register. Play things an octave higher, an octave lower, and that gives you a sense of variation to your ear and obviously your listener's ear. So that's the riff in a nutshell, and that's how we've played through a chord progression in a riff, and also we learned some nice fancy jazz chord extensions. So, as always, let me know what you come up with. The tabs, links to the description are down below. Cast your votes if you like what's going on here, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.